Eagles' new linebacker Nick Morrow spoke with the media yesterday, and after hearing his story, he might end up being the steal of free agency. Plus, could we see this Super Bowl champ return to Philly? And there's another name making headlines. Could we see Howie target this linebacker? But first, let's run it. Hope you're having a great Thursday. Josh Davis here. Please make sure to like and subscribe. We all love the underdog story. And if you think about it, that's really what Philly embodies. And you can see it from movies like Rocky or even the 2017 Super Bowl team that won it all and kind of embodying that underdog mentality altogether. But we've seen it all across the board. But did you see Nick Morrow's press conference yesterday? If not, this guy is going to be great in Philly.
I'm excited to be here, man. The culture, the tradition. Obviously, you see so many great players when you walk through the hall. And obviously, the things they did last year, making it to the Super Bowl, we competed against them last year, a tough team. Obviously, they beat us, but I'm excited to be here and get started. I think free agency is always unique no matter what year you're in. But, I'm excited to be here. That's like the biggest thing is being able to come and be a part of an organization like this. Yeah, I'm a versatile player. I've played Mike, I've played Will, I played Sam, I played in the 4-3, I've played in landmark defenses, I played in match defenses, I played in man defenses. I've kind of played it all with the Raiders and with Chicago. So I come here to play football and play defense.
Describe your sort of game, your skill set to the fan base.
Well, one, I like to get to the ball, so I'm going to compete to get to the ball every play. That's the biggest thing. And then, obviously, whatever my assignment is, I want to be assignment sound. But the biggest thing is just competing snap to snap. The thing about playing Division III football, right, there's no scholarship. You're paying to play. There's not that many people watching you play. There's not that many incentives. So you play for just the strict love of the game. And I think that's the biggest thing is just working. Not necessarily because you get a big payday at the end, but you're working because you just want to play next to your brothers and you want to compete. When I worked with Navarro Bowman, I think that was one of the biggest things, sitting next to Bowman in the meeting rooms when he came over from San Fran, like mid-season, and just learning from him. Like, obviously, he's a great player. He played with some great defenses, and so just learning from him and letting him mentor me. And throughout the years, I've had great mentors like Derek Johnson and KJ Wright. Those guys have been instrumental, and I've actually reached out to them recently, too. I don't know what I anticipated, but I think I realized really early that the only way to stay in the league is to work hard, right? And there's no substitute for that. I think you hear from great players, and what separates them, I think, for the most part, is how hard they work and how, obsessed they are with their work. And I think that's kind of what you have to do to last this long, for sure.
How much did you prove to yourself playing so many reps last year, coming off that season you missed, just from a physical standpoint, a mental standpoint?
One, I can last it, right? I can do it. That was one of the questions is, can I last? And I did. Other than that, there's a lot of responsibility put into it, right? I was actually one of the older guys in that room because guys that went down and guys got traded. And so just being a guy that they had to lean on in some of the communication things, so you kind of had to become a better communicator and things of that nature. So I learned a lot, and I hope I can continue to learn.
If that doesn't get you fired up, I don't know what will. He's talking about the work ethic, obviously his story and his underdog mentality, but quite honestly, whenever we first signed Nick Morrow, I thought, okay, that's a pretty good signing. Just looking at his face value, the stats the previous season, but I didn't know a whole lot about him. I didn't know really his full story. So the Inquirer has a great story that I read yesterday. I want to take a look at it here. It says, new Eagles linebacker Nicholas Morrow has carried his underdog mindset from D3 to the NFL. And this is by Josh Tolentino. Great article, but it says, quote, new Eagles linebacker Nicholas Morrow's NFL journey is atypical. After he paid his own way to play at Division III Greenville University in rural Illinois, 50 miles east of St. Louis, Morrow arrived in the league as an undrafted free agent, signed by the Raiders in 2017. During his first 4 years with the Raiders, he appeared as a rotational linebacker. His season high in defensive snaps was 728 in 2019. He then missed the entire 2021 season with a foot injury. Finally healthy again this past season, Morrow was on the field for every single one of Chicago Bears' defensive snaps, 1,086. In turn, Morrow led the Bears in tackles with 116, was second with 11 tackles for loss. It was the first time in over 6 seasons that he started every game. He's hoping to repeat that feat and more with the Eagles. End quote. And then it goes on, the article, I encourage you to read it. It's talking about some of the same quotes that you saw from the press conference, but it's talking about what type of fit this guy is. Obviously, we hear it, and you can kind of see and feel the passion from that press conference from Nick. But I'm telling you, this guy, a 6 foot, 225 pound linebacker kind of slash hybrid, because even as he's been played, if you don't know, in college, he played safety. So there's some versatility too. He sees some things differently maybe than your typical linebacker. And as we know, Sean Desai loves versatile players. As we could see from different signings that they've already made, Greedy Williams, you've got Justin Evans, Nick Morrow. Those are the types of players in the mold that Sean Desai looks for. And so whenever I see this, it gets me extremely excited because Nick just had a fantastic season. He has an underdog mentality, and he's a gamer. He played for the love of the game. There's no getting paid in D3. There's no scholarships or nothing. He had to pay to be on that team. So thumbs up for Nick Morrow. I think he's in for a big season. We'll see if he ends up getting the starter job. Obviously, there's still many more months to come of what Howie might do if he drafts a linebacker or signs another linebacker. But I think this could be a great potential fit and be interesting to see how he plays next to Nakobe Dean. Now, I know you can make the argument too that yes, Nick Morrow is a little bit weak in terms of coverage. If you look at his Pro Football Focus grades, I think he was like 60th out of the linebackers. So not great, but he has room to improve. And while he is 27 years old, and you could say he's getting a little bit older, he's younger in the sense of he's kind of new to the game because he was D3 and then he was out for a couple seasons, didn't really play a whole lot of snaps. Last year, like the article mentions, and we kind of heard in the presser, was his first full season. So I think the potential is very high. It's a low risk signing. You've only got him for 1 year, but hopefully this is another home run. And like I say, thumbs up for Howie signing, thumbs up for Nick Morrow. I think this could be phenomenal. More news that we had coming out, and this is the potential of a return. We've talked about Jalen Mills, we've talked about some other former Eagles, and there's always the excitement, I think, of players being able to potentially come back and play for a contender. Obviously, we know that the Eagles are one of the top dogs, if not the top dog in the NFC, but did you see Rodney McLeod was asked on Good Morning Football yesterday, would he consider a return to Philly? And you see here, John Clark of NBC Sports reported that the Eagles, or says the Eagles need help at safety, and this was on Good Morning Football. For some reason, the link is not playing fully, so I'm not going to play it for you guys, but basically what McLeod said on Good Morning Football was, I would love a return to Philly. It would kind of be like a storybook ending. Obviously, we had great times in 2017, and to kind of put a seal or a kind of a bookend with my career in Philly, maybe go get a Super Bowl, would be phenomenal. Now, obviously, McLeod would love to be here, and I think it would be exciting as always to have a former player who did fairly well and obviously, has a lot of ties with Philly in that way and is going to be very memorable for his entire life and the rest of his career. But I don't think this is the right move. You don't really want to go and sign someone like McLeod in this case. I think there's a lot of other options. Yes, McLeod had a fairly okay season with the Colts last year, but I think there's other options that you can go at, and Howie is obviously going to be targeting those, whether it be through the draft or free agency. I know there's some other potential safeties that we've been looking at, and so we'll have to see where Howie goes with the direction. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Should Rodney McLeod be considered? Should Howie bring him back? The Eagles have another visit today in Philly. So what prospect is that? It's Lukas Van Ness. And so Brandon Deeg, as you see here with a tweet, is visiting with the Eagles today. Here he is tossing projected top 10 pick Peter Skoronski back. Now, Skoronski, if you don't remember correctly, was the lineman that Mel Kiper most recently mocked to the Eagles. Obviously, it's just one play, and you could probably find any sort of highlight that you want on any player to make them look good or bad. But it is an interesting consideration. I know Lukas Van Ness has been mocked by some other people to go to Philly, so there's a toss-up between those two. Bijan Robinson is another one that I know continues to be the hot topic. It is a positive sign here, I think, of, again, you're going to have a draft visit with someone who will most likely be available at 10, and Lukas Van Ness has another underdog story. So we talk about Nick Morrow in the open, but Van Ness is some guy who he played as a backup, or he was a backup at Iowa. And so Iowa has the weird theme of a lot of times they start the upperclassmen, even if skill-wise, maybe they're not quite the same level, but obviously the potential here with Lukas Van Ness is through the roof. So I think this could be a good potential look. I'm not sure that I'm ready to say this is who we should take at 10, but if we trade back and let's say he's somewhere in the teens perhaps, I think that could be a good pick in the draft. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below though. What do you think about Lukas Van Ness as an option? Is he someone we should consider in the draft? Are there any other potential names that the Eagles are going to sign? On Instagram yesterday, you see the pick here, but this is Greedy Williams, and so he said Philly with the eagle emoji, but then take a look at who responds to him. Devin White, and he says, let's make it happen. Now, obviously, these are former LSU teammates. They go back, they have a connection, and it is a relationship-driven league. And yeah, Devin White is looking for a team to play at, and I'm sure he wants to be at a contender. But then the question again becomes, is Howie going to consider it? This is a linebacker, which Howie doesn't usually see as very high or doesn't have really high expectations for the linebackers where he's going to pay a lot of money. And Bobby Wagner's a name that continues to get thrown out, which we haven't seen anything come from that. So I doubt that this is going to happen, but you always want to consider or see the possibility, would Devin White be an option that Howie should consider? So let me know in the comments below, do you think that that's a viable option? White has had a positive career. Obviously with the Bucs, he played very well, especially in the Super Bowl, during their Super Bowl run. But I don't know. Again, I don't know if this is the right player for the scheme, as well as you've already got kind of some cap space issues. You're going to probably free up some more with the A.J. Brown and Hassan Reddick options, but still, you're not in a place where you're ready to say, yeah, let's go pay premium for a linebacker. Now, if Devin White was willing to take a deal, perhaps you look at doing something there, but I don't think that this is the route that Howie will take, and we'll have to see as this plays out over the next couple days. So let me know again, though, in the comments below what you guys think. As I mentioned, the contract space and what we're talking about there, but this article was from the Eagles Wire, but it says 2023 NFL free agency. Eagles have 2 contract options that'll free up $25 million in cap space. So that's the A.J. Brown news that I was mentioning and the Hassan Reddick. So if you take a look here, it says, according to the cap, Philadelphia has $13.9 million or roughly in available space. SpotTrack gives the Eagles $15.6 after the first wave. And then you go down here and it says at the start of free agency, the Eagles had a 10-day window to pick up options in wide receiver A.J. Brown and edge rusher Hassan Reddick's contract. Howie Roseman has 3 days left, which I think at this point it's 2 days left. But Brown is due $10.17 million payment that is required for a dummy 2027 contract year. And then it goes on to say, too, obviously for Reddick, he's due $15 million. So the remaining 16 of Brown's salary would be guaranteed, as well as Reddick's, which kind of creates that dummy year. Basically, it's a way to pay it all up front, is kind of like a signing bonus of sorts, and free up $25 million in cap space. So there's a couple other contracts that haven't officially hit in terms of if you're looking over the cap numbers, but either way, this is $25 million. So I would expect these deals or these options to be picked up very soon. But I would be surprised if Howie doesn't, because you're kind of leaving money on the table, so to speak. And especially in this given year where we don't have very many draft picks, you're probably wanting to save as much money as you possibly can. And so we'll keep an eye out on that and see how everything plays out. But we'll make sure to cover all the latest, most breaking news. We'll keep you up to date. Be sure to like and subscribe. Until next time, I'm Josh Davis, and this has been the Philly Special.